What you're looking at here is a model of the Giza necropolis, the three great pyramids of Giza. And the model is set so that we're looking along the north-south axis here, which we call the meridian axis. And up here, you're looking at a simulated model of the sky looking south. Now, there is a phenomenon we call precession of the equinox. What it really means is that the planet has a very, very slight wobble. It wobbles like a spinning top, and it takes 26,000 years to perform a full cycle. The result of this, if we look at the meridian, is that the altitude of stars will change. Now let's look at the constellation of Orion. The Egyptians believed that this constellation was the representation of the god Osiris, and in this constellation was the kingdom of Osiris in the sky. And that is where they wanted to join. Now we know that there is a shaft inside the Great Pyramid that pointed precisely to Orion at the time the pyramid was built. Now how do we know this? Let's watch the constellation of Orion. We will go back to the Pyramid Age in 2500 BC. And this is what would happen because of precession. Now we see that the constellation has gone down about 15 degrees lower altitude and in direct alignment with the shaft inside the Great Pyramid pointing towards it. This is how we were able to date the pyramid. However, there is something very interesting about what they tell us of this necropolis. They tell us that it is a representation of the kingdom of Osiris in the sky. And we have discovered that the three belt stars of Orion are in correlation to the three pyramids on the ground. But they also tell us that Osiris, and therefore Orion, had a beginning. Now because of precession, we know in fact that Orion had a beginning. So let's go at his beginning. We go down in time and we discover that the beginning was around 10,500 BC. This is very, very interesting because we discover also that at this time the pattern of the three stars of Orion's belt relative to the Milky Way matches exactly the pattern of the three pyramids on the ground with the Nile. Now, is this a coincidence? Let's move now to the east and have a look at the Great Sphinx of Giza. Now, this is a model of the Sphinx, and it's looking directly east. On the screen, this green line that you see represents the eastern horizon. We are looking, therefore, along a west-east axis, whereas before, we were looking along a north-south axis, which is the meridian, and we were looking at the stars of Orion's belt that represent Osiris. Let's go there again. Here is the constellation of Orion at the beginning of its precessional cycle in 10,500 BC. Now here is the most amazing thing. There is a great conjunction that happens with the sun. When we go east in the direction of the Sphinx, we notice that at this precise time, the sun would rise at the spring equinox in direct alignment with the Sphinx. It cannot be a coincidence. It very much indicates that the Sphinx was probably built in 10,500 BC. What seems to confirm this is that, as you notice, above the sun is the constellation of Leo, the constellation of the Lion, which is of course a cosmic effigy of the Sphinx itself. Now, this is the beginning of the age of Leo. So we have two beginnings. We have the beginning of the Orion cycle, which we have seen before in 10,500 BC, and this is in perfect conjunction with the beginning of the age of Leo. We have two beginnings at exactly the same date. The coincidence cannot be. But there is something else. You probably can see here that the causeway that links the pyramid with the Sphinx is at an angle. The angle is exactly 14 degrees, and we are therefore invited to direct the sun in this angle, 14 degrees. we will go back 1 month before the vernal equinox and see what happens. Well, the science of astronomy tells us that the ancient Egyptians could be as old as the 11th millennium BC, but the Egyptians themselves believed in a great antiquity of their civilization. And there are kings lists, for example, that go down to 36,000 BC. Now, the Great Pyramid is not just designed along astronomical principles. It is extremely precise. This is what we have to realize. The axis of the Great Pyramid is barely offset a fraction, a minute fraction of a degree. The precision is astounding. So why this precision? I'm a construction engineer. Well, actually, I'll waffle him because you don't have a voice. Well, for a construction engineer, the problem is this, is that the precision is unnecessary. In fact, it is detrimental to the building, because we know that if you bring two blocks very, very close to each other, which is very, very difficult to do, but by doing so, you're actually causing a structural problem, because you want a gap between the blocks. The reason you want a gap is that you want that the dead weight of the building actually works within the joints. If you bring them too close, you cause a stress in the building. So I'm giving you very fast and you choose what you want. So the precision is not only increasing the problem of the builders. It will take him much, much longer to achieve that precision. But in fact, it's doing nothing in terms of the structure of the building. It's causing a problem. So the question is, why do they want this precision? And clearly, everything invites us to consider that the precision has to do with astronomy. They wanted something extremely precise. They wanted to make sure that it was extremely precise. This was extremely important to them. So we're looking at people who focused all their vision on the sky. And to them, to me, it's nothing surprising, because we're looking at people everywhere in the world who build monuments with monolithic blocks with high precision, and the high precision is always linked to astronomy. You have the case of all your other monuments. And therefore, we have to ask the question is, why did they do this? Why did they want to go for this high precision? In the case of the Great Pyramid, there's a lot of anomalies that are there. For example, the blocks, as I explained last night. You have courses which are of uneven thickness, and the blocks themselves are not of the same size. This means that we have 2.5 million blocks that were used to build this pyramid of an equal size. It's like assembling a gigantic puzzle with 2.5 million pieces without an instruction manual. It is an incredible task, and there is no need for this complication. They could have easily quarried blocks which had the same thickness. So we have to ask ourselves, who are these people who did not shy away from this kind of complications? Indeed, they seem to have deliberately caused complications to themselves. In the case of the temples, as I explained, we have temples that have blocks weighing between 50 and 200 tons. Totally unnecessary, absolutely unnecessary to use to build a temple. As a matter of fact, it is far better to build them with smaller blocks, far more manageable, and you can achieve a much higher architectural precision. Again, we're faced with a problem. Why did they want to have those kind of difficulties in their construction? And therefore, it is our job to try and understand what they had in mind. Or are we looking at people who had a technology that we cannot understand? That is perhaps more interesting. In spite of the contradictions to the established view as to what the ancient Egyptians or prehistoric men were, we are forced to consider these questions. The accuracy is not only found in Egypt in the Great Pyramids, although these were extremely precisely aligned monuments. We find that throughout the world, other monuments of ancient cultures are exhibiting the same astronomical precision, again, using the same monolithic sort of construction. So we have to ask ourselves the question, why? And to me, it seems that these people were tracking time. Everything directs us to conclude that they were tracking the precessional changes of the sky. To them, the story of humanity was written in the sky, and they were tracking it with the precision and with their monuments. Now here, for example, the construction of Stonehenge. We know that the people who built Stonehenge were aligning the monument precisely to the summer solstice. How do we know the age of the monument? Well, because again of the phenomenon of precession, we find that the position of the summer solstice, as seen from the latitude of Stonehenge is different in the ancient past. By calculating the difference, we arrive at the date of Stonehenge, which is somewhere in the 3rd millennium BC. In all these monuments, we're finding the hallmark of precession. And precession is, in sort, the DNA reading of our planet. It is unique to our planet. The cycle of precession is unique to our planet. So these people were tracking down time, and they were tracking down the changes of our planet. Why were they doing that? Why all of them are doing that in their monuments? And these are the questions that we have to answer. The problem that we have is that we're bringing in a new science into the study of ancient monuments. And this science is astronomy. There is a tremendous resistance in accepting that it is through astronomy that we can understand the textual material that these people have left us. Their monuments, their silent monuments, speak in astronomical terms. Now, we have existing models established by the archaeologists, by the Egyptologists, by the historians, and they cling to them. It is very difficult for us to convince them that the route to break and the understanding of these monuments is through the route of astronomy. So not surprisingly, we're getting a lot of stick from them. But these are antedated models that they have. There are new ideas using new sciences that explain these monuments far better. We're applying science here. We're following science, the science of astronomy, the science of geology. We need to consider what the science is telling us, and whether this conflicts with established views, with established theories. That's not my problem. If there are theories that are wrong, then they will have to be changed. What isn't wrong is the alignment of these monuments and the stones themselves. It is not right not to consider what science is telling us simply because we have existing theories. If theories are wrong, then they need to be changed. We are trying to change theories that do not fit anymore with what the science is telling us. And the science is telling us very seriously that we have to consider that humanity is far older than we think, and civilization may predate the Ice Age, whether we like it or not, or whether it's conflicting with old established theories.